What's up everyone, welcome back to a new video on the Alien Agro channel. This will be the daily market outlook for today. As we can already see, the weekends of course was some chop with the ability to be positioned on that Sunday right here. But the weekend is usually just chop, but there is the opportunity to get a position on the Sunday to front run the Monday traders. So, with all that having said, let's get into the 4 hour to start with. Of course, this previous weekly open correlating with these three VWAP lines right here was my crucial point to reclaim, because I simply expected it to act as a big resistance as it did here previously as well. As you can see, it was a great support, breaking below, retesting it, getting that move further down, seeing this rejection, deviating and pulling back a lot deeper from it. We got a little bit of resistance from that exact point here again, and we currently have cleared it. And on a technical level, when I simply just look at a weekly, this is why I turned bullish yesterday again. When we look at it from a technical perspective on a weekly basis, this right here, this level to this level, where I mainly look at this point, this high, to this lower part of the body of this candle as the crucial weekly resistance, where we can see I've illustrated this as well more on the daily. So for the weekly, you really did not want to see it get closed below this. And as you can see, well, we were able to close above this level right here. So with this being that crucial level, and you see we just got on that major wick to the bottom side, giving us a very bullish close. So from that moment, I simply expected price to still get some resistance right here, which we did, but we currently have flipped it. And if we simply look at it on a market structural level, we simply see this as being your extreme high given that move towards the downside. So we wanted to see this getting flipped. And here again it proved to be resistance on this specific candle. And now that we have flipped it, and we even had almost a perfect retest of these lows, which if you can look at it like this, you see how it is illustrated. So right here, now you see this perfectly being flipped. Now of course, some levels we currently are getting back into, because now we can see this as one big deviation, where this was your previous range. I see that the range low is not perfectly put, so let me adjust that a little bit. Right there. And now you can see where that midline is, which is correlating with this 109k. So for Bitcoin, I really would be wanting to see this level getting flipped and this level getting flipped closely after. If we look at it on a 1 hour, I want to look specifically at this little point. As you can see, this is correlating with that range low, where this was your previous high, also acted as a support here before breaking down and retesting it to get that big flood. So these really would be your crucial levels when you are looking at the upside for now, with this simply being a break and a proper retest. So what do you want to see hold? Of course, this level right here. Because simply if we lose this, there is a chance of us just making a lower high and getting continuation towards that downside. But if we simply hold above here, we are just making higher lows. So let's illustrate that we, for example, do something like this, get back into the candle. Now we just have a higher low. So these will be the scenarios for me to look at. Either get into here, get some tiny rejection where we just get a little bit more sideways chop before we continue up, or we straight blast through it, which I do think is the least likely case. But the simple inflection points should be right here. So these will be your levels to watch when we are looking on it on a lower time frame. Of course, we simply have created a tiny bit of resistance right here. And now that we have seen most of this play out, I will clean up the chart a lot. So for next video, this chart will be changed a lot, and most of you maybe won't recognize it. But just know I want to keep it a little bit cleaner. And now that this is just past data, I don't think this is useful anymore. So we will clean up the chart and we will keep a couple levels that we have just spoke about, like this range right here and these bigger time frame levels with these being the blue lines. So with BTC having had, let's get straight into ETH. ETH, like expected, it has been a little bit of a bitch on the lower time frames this weekend, with us just having a shitload of fake breakouts. But as you can see, these still are playable, because when we simply look at this, it's just a break, consolidate, and we get that impulse move towards the upside. We find acceptance back below, where we get that range back into the range lows, giving us again the opportunity to play it towards the upside. What do we get a little bit later? And this is one of the setups I played. As you can see, this was my expectation. We get back above, we get into it, and we just start moving up. But it was another fake breakdown. So how did I play this? I simply went long on this candle right in between, because it was a lower time frame execution. It should have been at 2.528, so it was a little bit higher. Right here. Wait, this is the USD chart, so it should be right here, because I played it on a perpetual basis, of course, with this being that stop. And the thing I did, because I always looked for that 3R minimum, which got hit perfectly, but here comes the thing. I trail the stop loss. And what do I mean with trailing the stop loss? You simply have the market structure. So you have the highs, you have the lows right here, and you just make new lows and you make new highs. And the thing I do is I simply move that stop loss up. So the moment a new high gets created, now my stop loss is here. So I will remove the arrows to illustrate it. So of course the price starts here from my entry, with the stop being this. Now price broke this high, starts moving up, creating a higher low. Now this level becomes my stop loss. So I'm already guaranteed to make profit, even if I'm wrong. Right here. Because let's say in the drawing, I of course made it a lot higher. But you can see this, of course, being that first inflection point. But here is the idea. The moment you create these higher lows, these are your lower time frame supports. So when you simply think of it like this, if price is moving this, like illustrated here, this is what you want to see. You want to see these levels just either being equal or getting higher. So the moment one gets lower, what do you simply get? So let's illustrate it. You have this, and now you get this. Right here, it gets lower. There is a really big chance of this being that market structure break, where we get this right after. So this is why I trail the stop losses to the upside when these higher lows are formed. Because you can see right here, the new higher low was formed. The moment this broke is when you get that major move towards the downside. So here I got stopped out for a very small profit. Quite simple. So this, of course, can be applied to any given time frame. Right now, I'm just showing it in a 5-minute. This can be done on a second chart, on an hour chart, on a monthly chart, on a daily chart, whatever floats your boat. This is just the way I drill my stop losses to minimize losses. Because you rather won't lose any money at all, or lose very little, and then the moment your full TP hits, it is a big winner. Because I'd rather make 3%, 3%, lose 2%, and then the moment I hit a trade, it's like 80% profit. So, this is the way of making your losses as minimal as possible, and I rather walk away with a very tiny amount of profit than I just guess and hope that it just keeps rallying to my full TP. I'd rather manage it with stop loss moving right here, but I only do this towards the upside, of course, in profit to minimize those losses. So for ETH, of course, you can see this was the way it played out thus far, and after we just retrieved back straight to those higher time frame lows right here, where you see we clearly bounced from multiple times, having it deviate once, deviate twice, and giving that proper retest right here. And again, we got that fake breakdown, fake breakout, I mean. Got back in, back to the highs, fake breakout again, back into those range lows, and we are seeing it move up from here right now. The thing again, right here, break up, retest it, move up. I don't think I need to explain this concept further. It's quite simple, and of course the way to manage it, if you're positioned right here, my current position is at 2518.04. Let's use the perpetual chart for this because otherwise the price won't be accurate. So how will I manage this? 2518.04 right here, with my stop already being at break even. But when we look at the 1 minute time frame, and a thing I would like to point out, this was entry 1, entry 2, entry 3, entry 4, and I've added a little bit right here, giving me an average entry of this 2518.04. So as you can see, currently I'm already on a nice bit of profit. But the way I of course manage this, as shown in that previous picture, is when we create a higher high and a higher low, I simply move that stop loss. So here again, and to be clear, I want both sides to be formed. So it's not I see this higher high being made, now this becomes my stop. That's not the way I approach it. I want to see both sides making a new staircase. So the high having a new staircase, the low having a new staircase, and now this becomes my stop. So again, here we have a new high created, we have a new low created, we see it moving from here. Now this is my proper stop. And let's say we create the high here, we start creating a new low right here, then this will become my stop. So this is just to illustrate the idea how I manage these positions by playing with this stop loss. And this is just manually trailing the stop loss. So when we simply illustrated this idea, I wanted to touch on this because I do think a lot of people know how to trade, but they don't know how to manage a trade. Because the entry moment, this is the easiest. Everyone can press the button, buy or sell, but how do you manage the trade is what matters. How you exit the trade. Do you take partial profits? Do you move your stop on the way up? What is your way of managing the trade? This is what matters way more than the entry, in my opinion. So when we look at ETH, it's quite simple. We want to see this hold as well, and it's currently breaking this, showing I think a little bit more strength than BTC, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, on the lower time frame it looks a little bit better. So let's get into alts, since now we've simply had BTC, with of course this being that lower time frame inflection point to move towards this level, and after we can look at this 0.5 level if this of course manages to be broken. And for ETH, it's quite clear this is currently your level to break, with this being that 0.5 level of that macro range. So let's get into some alts. Banana did not perform that well right here, but it is seeing some buyers right here, so this I'm not too bothered about. Virtual proved still to be one of the stronger projects right now, with of course us having talked about how this deviation on the move down and on the bottom forming, how this was so insanely similar to this one right here. And we also are seeing that move above, that retest, that move above, that retest, and currently moving up. For hype, really one of the stronger projects. It's quite insane how much strength this is showing against other projects. And it's simply, we played it from right here towards those highs, and now it is still at this high. With of course, if this breaks, we can look at, from the top of my head, right here, and right here, these being the levels for me that I'm currently watching, because you simply have this major wick. How can we target this a little bit better? I'm not sure if I have the correct settings on this account though, so let me quickly check. If, yeah, right there. Oh, was not what was supposed to do. Yeah, right. No. Nope, that's not the one. Yeah, this is the one. Now, I just need to extend it to the right. Oh. Interesting. Yeah, it's not set up the way I want it to. Let's get into the standard fib then. Yes, right here. Yeah, okay. So let's change this to red. Okay, so I was almost on point. You can see this being that fib level and this being that fib level. And let me get this a little bit clearer for Fibonacci. I've gotten this question once today, but I don't really use Fibonacci that much for the shorter time frames. What I do use this for is for finding take profits in the terms of a price being in price discovery. And with price discovery, I mean, let's take Bitcoin to show the example with this. Price discovery is simply when price is above an all-time high, because let's say price is here and we are trading this on the way up. We simply have previous price action to look at, like right here, this consolidation proven to be a resistance. This point where the bleed started from, proven to be a resistance. But the moment you get above it, you simply don't have any previous data to look at. So then you start looking at things like Fibonacci. With, if I simply illustrate one Fibonacci that I used, if TradingView annoying little magnet wants to help me, yes, right here. And then we get this point, needs to be a little bit lower. So we get these 2 points, and now we get those extension zones to the upside. And as you can see here, that 90k has proven to be a perfect level for the profit taking right here. later became that support, giving that breakdown right on top of it. And the same happened for this level right here. So this is a simpler way to use Fibonacci, but the way I use my Fibonacci is with ranges like this. And as you can see, I identified this point to this as range. And where did we get that pullback? Right on that Fibonacci level here. So you see, we managed to break above a little bit. We retraced all the way and perfectly gotten that touch on this level, which of course has been sitting here on the chart for a while. When we look at the 4 hour and we simply identify this as a range, and you get your extension levels. This is way more what I'm using in terms of Fib. I really don't use all those fancy levels in between and the golden pocket and things like such. This is not my way of trading. I know it works, but it is not my style of trading. So if you simply want to know how those Fibs work on the golden pocket level or on a retrace level, this is not the video for you. But this is the way I use it, mainly with ranges. If you want to learn more about this way of trading the range, I suggest you watch the video on my channel about the slaughterhouse. So, when we simply have explained this concept, let's get into those alts again. CTIA still not able to reclaim this zone, so I am still patiently waiting on this. Ondo trying to show a little bit of strength. Pendle is showing way more strength for the RWA coins, and ETH BTC tickling with that level I wanted to see break. So we simply want this to break, and if we don't, we still expect some chop. And here, if we of course get back lower, we have more time to accumulate. If it gets up, we just need to accumulate on the vertical level. Meaning, if price does something like this, you see this as your, let me illustrate it a little bit better. Right here, you see something like this being that major trend. And then, of course, we add on those higher lows. So, it's one of the two. If we break above, I will be adding on the higher lows. If we manage to reject and we start to see some more chop, we just get the cheaper opportunity and have a longer time period to accumulate. Which of the two will be given? I have no clue. I expect it to break up, but of course this is still crypto, so we just have to be looking for both sides and play with the triggers. For the general markets, it does seem a little better than Friday because we still are able to move around. Okay, this is quite insane. It's exactly moving the way that I've drawn. Moving down, moving up, and we've held again. So this now simply looks like a break and retest. So let's go onto the Nasdaq. Still looking strong. The Dow Jones also still looking strong with this major wick on the bottom side. Looks quite good. When we look at the DXY, this still seems to be moving down. As you can see with this major rejection, and when we compare it to previous price action, you see that this is almost identical. When you look at this exact point to this. Here it just was a shorter time period, and here the range was a longer time period. So I expect a little bit more bleed on that DXY, maybe continuing into September-ish, December, November, right there. Right, this area. So if you simply look at it on a speed level, we should be around here. Then comes, of course, the question, is it 1 month? Is it 3 months? No clue. I don't like to play it on a time basis, but this is a major factor I've been watching since before we even got back below the range. So this was a little bit longer of a video because I wanted to explain that trailing logic, how I manage these positions and what type of triggers I am watching. So if you guys want a quick sum up, if not, this is simply video over. If you want a sum up, this is the inflection point. This is your second inflection point for the lower. And if we break this, we can simply look back towards the upside. What we can get, of course, is like a deviation move where we first do this and then we move back up. Oh, it was not supposed to go there like a double bottom, but you guys get the idea. So that is it for BTC. For ETH, okay, that went a little bit faster than I expected. We currently are right at that 0.5 level, showing a little bit of selling, but I simply still expect this to move further up, with ETH BTC showing a little bit of strength on the lower time frame, also back into that inflection point. ETH BTC doesn't really work on that 1 or 3 minute, as you can see. So this simply being it, we want to see this being flipped for ETH on the higher time frames, this 0.5 level, and for BTC, this previous high, and before this, after this gets broken, we can look way more towards these upper levels. So with all that having said, my excuses for the video being a little bit longer, but I wanted to illustrate some parts in a little bit more detail. So without more having said, guys, have a nice day and keep trading.